Good morning! I thought I'd have a chat with you. I've just had a flurry of videos, in fact so many I put them out at 2 a week. I wanted to get to the end of the Britannia saga basically, and it was a bit of a confusing saga, even for me. I thought the last video was going to involve a £2 lump hammer, to be honest, until I spotted that very obvious thing. So, topic number 1, bullfrog snot. The Mallard traction tyre video just went out, and I had a lot of comments about bullfrog snot. I've never used it. I've never bought it. I know what it does. I know you buy a little pot and it's basically a liquid rubber solution, if you like, and you get it into the groove of the wheel that you're wanting to apply a traction tyre to. You leave it for a little while and it goes off solid, and then it grips the track just like a traction tyre. But as I say, I've never bought it, I've never used it, I really know nothing about it, so I don't hold an opinion on it one way or the other. All I know is that I'm used to replacing traction tyres, and I've got that little skill, and to use bullfrog snot, I'm going to assume you're going to have to learn a new skill to get enough on it, but not too much on it. Number 2, the Britannia. I've just read a comment on here from a young guy, say young guy, don't know if he's young or not. See, the Mallard one's playing over here. And he's got some Dapple A4s and he wants me to show him how to get into the body. So that means I'm going to have to do another video on the Britannia, where I'm actually going to try and show you what I'm doing. So when I'm working on a locomotive, I just take this keyboard and put it behind me, and that gives me enough space to work with. And when I'm working, this is what I use. So I've got a stretchy light. You open the flap, it keeps the dust off the lens, and I switch it on, and I'm basically working with my nose almost touching the glass, and the actual subject that I'm working on no more than a couple of inches under the glass. So that's why I haven't done detailed service videos, because I don't know how I could show it to you, especially as there isn't much space on here to actually put a camera. I literally sit here at this bench, facing that way obviously, with my phone in a phone mount on a tripod, get it the right way up, and I'm literally looking through the back of the phone while I talk to the phone, and then I go and do the work, and then I might come back. It's very difficult for me to do without a proper workbench. So anyway, this is my office. It's actually just an extension on the side of the house. It was the utility room and a downstairs toilet. In fact, my wife said if you'd left the toilet in place, you wouldn't have needed to buy a chair. You could have just sat on the toilet all day. Anyway, so home computer, 24-inch screen and a laptop. As you can see the screen there. Behind me here, 2 screens, a laptop, a router, a phone line. That's work. So where did Engage on a Shelf come from? Well, after I'd cleared the rubbish in the attic, well, by rubbish I mean my first attempt at actually building a layout in the attic. It got neglected for many years due to my dad dying and then my mum dying, and then when I went up there it was filthy, and it just sat there filthy for about 10 years. And I said to my wife, I said, I'm going to build a layout. So what I had was a shelf layout. It started over here. It was about 9 inches wide, and it came round behind me, a 90-degree bend, and then you can't quite, it went past the window, and then behind the boiler there was a good 2 feet. So I had a big loop round using radius 2 curves, I think. Then there was a little station with a passing loop behind me, and then it came back into this station, which was at this end, which you can't see because it's level with the camera. And there was a couple of sidings there as well. So essentially it was out round the loop and back. And because of the sidings and the passing loop, I could run one halfway round and then run one halfway round in the other direction, whatever. So that's where end gauge on a shelf comes from. I had a shelf laid out. It was about as high up as this little shelf here with some doodahs on. Well, I had several problems with it. After the ballasting, I had electrical issues because I'd got PVA glue obviously got PVA glue into the fish plates, and I didn't have enough droppers. The next thing I had was a length of FlexiTrack spring on me. Now you know the chairs on FlexiTrack are so much smaller than the set track. I must have damaged it in some way when I was installing it without noticing it, and I had one rail go ping. Well, replacing a length of FlexiTrack between 2 other points, and when you start lifting it and the ballast starts going and it starts pulling up scenery, and I couldn't get it going because I didn't know what I was doing, for goodness sake. So I took that down, and that's when I went up in the small bedroom and made a number of mistakes up there too. And then I went in the attic and I made a number of mistakes up there too, because I just don't have the knowledge. So I'm retiring in a few months, so all this junk behind me is going. I've been threatened under pain of death to tidy the entire room, and you really don't want to see what's on the other side of the camera. So the home computer is going to go there under the window, and I'm going to be left with this kitchen worktop empty. Yeah, I don't know if I've said it already, this L shape here is just kitchen worktop on breakfast bar legs. It's about 1 inch thick. It's not the really deep kitchen worktop, it's only 1 inch. So what do I do with this? Well, option 1 is I can use it for a workbench. But I don't want to become OO Bill. Have you seen OO Bill on YouTube? I'll put a link below. He deals in OO gauge, and he started off showing off his layout and repairing his own locos. And then he started getting repair requests. So then people were posting a loco to him, he'd repair it on camera, and then he'd send it back. He charged a small amount. I don't know what he's charging now, because it seems to have turned into a bit of a business. But essentially that's what he does. And that's where I learnt to service locomotives, was just by watching him. And it comes down to getting things clean, making sure the contacts touch where they're supposed to touch, and then the right amount of lubrication. And he's built up quite a following doing that. I don't want to do that. I'll show you when I service one of my own, but all my mini tricks have been serviced now, so there's probably nothing to show you. I could just sat here with an empty bench for a long time before I have to actually get another one down here. And the other thing with that is I'm slowly replacing the mini tricks. I'm going to get a V2 should they ever release it. It's a year late as it is, but I'm going to get a V2 in the LNER apple green, and I will simply put that as a replacement for the Minitrix Flying Scotsman. And with the latest locomotives, they're not really user-friendly to be serviced. You've got an enclosed motor, so you're never going to clean that. So it's just a question of clean the wheels, clean the contacts, put a drop of oil where required. And in fact, as I showed with the Britannia, you've got to destroy the body to get it off to actually grease the, if you want to grease the worm drive. So I don't see much servicing going on here, so it's not going to be used for servicing. If I use it as a dumping ground, I will be shot, hung, drawn and quartered and hung on the washing line if I do not tidy this room up. Pain of death. So what could I use this for? Well, I've got 6 foot by 2 foot, apart from, you probably can just about see it, because this is an extension to the house for some bizarre reason. There's a little bit of wall stuck out there. So I've got 6 by 2, except for this end I've got 22 inches instead of 24 inches. I can use radius 1 or radius 2 curves. So I can create a layout with a scale length of approximately 650 yards. Scale length of the one in the attic is 1.5 miles, and with the single track going round the outside and into the extremities of the corners, that's probably a bit further, call it 1.75 miles. So I've got 6 by 2, 650 yards scale length. So I could do something on this. I could do a little layout here, perhaps. Trouble is, I don't like those layouts that follow the outside of the board and then all of the sidings are sort of like diagonally into the middle. I don't like that. Another option would be to do a Renton. Now with Renton, what he's done is he's divided the board lengthways, so there's a back seam here, and all his sidings are the other side of the back seam. But I do not, once I've done that, I just wouldn't have the space to create too much in this front slither. And I think I would get bored of a train coming out of a tunnel, stopping at the station, going into the tunnel, and then getting another train out of another siding and going just to have it appear for a few seconds and then disappear. I would get bored with that. What if I did a figure of 8? Now you think of a figure of 8 as something that crosses in the middle. What if you take so here's your figure of 8 with a cross where the heels of my palms are. What if you do that? So now you have 2 loops, but at the extremity of this board at this end, they do that. They cross at one end. What that means is you've got to go around twice to get back to where you started. So now you have a run of 1,300 yards scale length. Question about the cross. Do you keep everything flat and you actually use a crossing? Or do you raise one loop up so they cross at different heights? Then you've got inclines to worry about without the space. So you would have to have the crossing height of the 2 tracks as close as possible. You'd have to give it 2 millimeters of clearance. And of course, using radius 1, radius 2 curves, you would be limited in what locomotives you could run. You'd probably only run 1 coach or 2 coaches at max, or 4 or 5 trucks max. Could have a goods yard, a shunting area. There's possibilities. The question is will I have the money in retirement, even though this would be a very cheap build? Do I have the desire for laying track and ballasting and wiring and getting stuck into static grass again and seafoam trees or whatever type of tree I decide to use? buying buildings and making platforms. Do I actually have the desire for that? I got the time, I'll be retired. Do I have the desire? So I think I've covered everything. I've covered bulldog snot, I've covered servicing, I've covered this empty space that I'm going to be gifted. I think that's it really. I don't want this video to go on too long, 15.5 minutes. So that's it. But yeah, if you want to learn about servicing your locomotives, the best thing to do is to go over and have a look at OO Bill on YouTube, link below, and go back in time 3 years in his timeline and just start watching. And it shows about cleaning and taking locomotives apart and God, all this talking makes me dry. And you can build confidence just by watching what he's doing. Alright, everything's bigger, everything's easier than what we will be doing with Engage, but there's a ghost of the dog, it might be the postman. I will warn you about going to watch OO Bill though. You'll watch one, and then you'll watch another one, and then you'll watch another one, and the next thing you know is it's 3 AM, you've got a plate of cold food on the side, and your wife has packed her bags and gone. That's it for now. Cheerio. Well, you never know, you might actually want your wife to pack her bags and gone. Then you could build a big layout in the spare bedroom. Ta-ra!